pure. In 2 Kings chapter 5, verses 9 and 10, the next verses, it says, quote, "So Naaman came with his horses and his chariots and stood at the door of the house of Elisha." I can just imagine. So the great man of high honor, God used him. He's an enemy of Israel, but yet God used him. He was a man used of God, captain of the army of Syria. He probably come in great pompous, I can just imagine with great fanfare, roll out the red carpet. Here's Naaman. And he comes, and he probably more than likely wasn't himself. He probably sent a servant to the door of Elisha, knock on the door. So what's going on inside the house? Elisha. You think he's in there going, "Wow, look at all the horses, beautiful horses and chariots, and look at all the gold and the silver and the wow, look at all this. Wow, this is great. This is not just anybody. This is Naaman. I mean, this is one of the most powerful, most highly respected, well-known people in the world. I better go out and maybe not bow down to him, but show him great respect. I'll have to shake his hand or whatever kind of greeting that he would do. He'd have to show him great respect and show him that he's there to serve his needs." What did Elisha do? He did the opposite. At the top over here, Elisha sent a messenger to him saying, "Go wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." Think about this for a sec. Elisha doesn't even come to the door. He doesn't even greet him. He doesn't really show him any respect in that sense. I mean, certainly he would have a degree of respect, but no bowing down to him, or not even. I can just imagine Elisha probably in the rocking chair, "Hey, servant, hey, go to the door and just tell them to tell Naaman, just go and wash in the Jordan over here 7 times, and he'll be clean. I'm not even going to bother getting up out of my chair." Picture the scene. Naaman arrives with his magnificent entourage, chariots, horses, gold, silver. He parks outside Elisha's humble house, expecting the prophet to come out and bow. Elisha doesn't even come out. Doesn't even show his face. See, when it comes to pride, this is one of the attributes of pride. Remember, God opposes the proud. Pride is not a good thing in the eyes of God. According to the Holy Scriptures, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. One of the attributes of pride is expectation. When a person has a lot of pride, they impose a lot of things on people. There's this imposing expectation. And you know what happens when the expectation is not met, where usually, frequently when you have somebody of great pride, they have a lot of expectations that are not met. And so what happens when that happens, the next step from there is anger, right? And this is why prideful people are easily triggered. So we have Naaman outside with all of his magnificent entourage. Elisha doesn't even come out. Why not? Did he just intentionally show disrespect? Did he intentionally just snub him? I don't think so. I think that Elisha knew what this man needed more than anything was humility. And the way for him to get it is two stages. Number one, I'm not even going to the door to greet him. I'm not even going to get up out of my chair. I don't have to. I'll send a little messenger to go talk to him. Number two, go wash in the Jordan. Not a very prestigious river. Dirty river. Not a great grand river. Not a great beautiful river of great, of pure waters and posh, lush, river. No. That dirty old little Jordan. He sends a messenger, maybe Gehazi, who knows, with a prescription. Why? Number one, to humble Naaman, to humble him. Naaman is used to being honored. He needs to learn that his rank means nothing to God. Number two, to prove it's God and not magic. If Elisha came out and waved his hands, Naaman might think Elisha is a powerful magician. By staying inside, Elisha proves that the power is in the word of Yahweh, received in humility, and not the personality of the prophet. Kubert says he wasn't happy about this treatment. Oh yeah, he wasn't very happy about that. No, he wasn't. Can you imagine, like, you think of a great man, on earth today, coming and knocking on your door, and you don't even get up to greet him or anything. You send someone else and just go tell him to, he probably wouldn't be very thrilled, especially if he came for you specifically, like this Naaman came for Elisha to speak to him, and Elisha didn't even show his face apparently. So the prescription, wash in the Jordan 7 times. The Jordan River is muddy, small, and unimpressive compared to the great rivers of Damascus in Syria, where Naaman is from. This requires humility, simple obedience, not heroic feats. Next couple verses. Quote, but Naaman was angry and went away. See, this is what happens. There are several prominent attributes of a prideful person. One of them is this imposing on people. Expectations, usually unreasonable expectations or overly high expectations of someone else to act or behave in a certain way. Naaman was angry. Why? Because his prideful expectation was not met. This is what happens. Pride produces expectation. When the expectation is not met, anger. He was easily triggered, like a lot of other prideful people are. He was easily triggered here. He went away angry. So we don't want to be easily triggered people, right? We want to be people that are a lot stronger than that. And in order to be stronger than that, we have to be humble. Pride is like a prideful person is like a person who puts up a facade. It's just a mask to protect yourself from who you really, usually prideful people, they know they're not much. And so they have to make themselves look like much, and it's part of their defense mechanism. Naaman was angry and went away and said, behold, I thought he will certainly come out to me, at least, and stand. Of course, you got to stand. You got to show respect, right? And not only that, but call on the name of Yahweh, his God, and wave his hand over the place and heal the leper. So he had specific expectations. He expected thus and thus and thus, A, B, C, and D. And none of them were met. None of the expectations were met. Then he says, aren't Arabah and Parfar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned away. He turned and went away in a rage. You want me to go? You want me to go wash in a dirty river and get clean? What sense does that make? I should go wash in the beautiful rivers of Damascus if you want me to be clean. Of course, clean means not just clean as we think of clean, but rather to be cleansed of this disease. Naaman's pride. Behold, I thought. This is the problem with many of us. We have a preconceived notion of how God should work. So this is presumption and pride. This is how a church service should look like. And if I don't get it this way, I'm going to be angry. This is what the pastor should do. He should absolutely shake my hand on the way out of the door. We want the wave of the hand, the lightning, the sensation. We want the theatrical. Naaman is insulted. The rivers of Damascus, Abana and Pharpar, are crystal clear mountain streams. The Jordan is a muddy ditch. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. He is essentially saying, if it is just about water, I have better water at home. He misses the point. It's not about the water. It's about the word. It's about humility. Verse 13 and 14, quote, his servants came near and spoke to him and said, my father, if the prophet had instructed you to do some great thing, wouldn't you have done it? How much rather then when he says to you, wash and be clean? So these servants had more sense than Naaman did. Well, you could say his servants had more humility than Naaman. And so these servants kind of backed Naaman into a corner. Like, hey, like, Elisha, he's just asking you to go do something simple. If he were to ask you to climb Mount Everest, do some great feat, then certainly you would have done it, right? It feeds your ego. So you'd certainly do that. Why not this little simple thing that you can do? I mean, you're right here anyway, so it's just over yonder. You go to the Jordan and wash, and everything's good. Everything will be fine. Pretty simple. Broke his pride. Then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. Unquote. Okay, so in this passage, the servants are the heroes. They reason with him. If he asked you to climb a mountain or slay a dragon, you would have done it to save your life. Why not this easy thing? In other words, right? To paraphrase it. It's often harder for proud men to do simple things than difficult things, because simple things require humility. The miracle. Naaman swallows his pride. He goes down to the muddy Jordan. He dips 7 times. Dip 1. Still. And here's something too. Can you imagine if it was leprosy, and if like literally leprosy, Naaman would probably not be a very pretty sight. He would have probably had to disrobe himself in order to bathe in the river Jordan. So this would have been a very humbling experience for him. So this would have been humility on multiple levels. I can almost hear the gasps of the people who watched him say, oh, I didn't know he was that bad. I didn't know it was that bad. Humility is the position of miracles and God's grace and God's love, God's works. You want to receive his grace and his love. You want to receive his miracles in that way. Humility is how you can welcome it. Humility is the culture of God. Dip number 1, still leprous. Dip number 2, still leprous. 3, 4, 5, 6, still leprous. 7, clean. Assuming this is literal, of course. His flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child. This is total regeneration. The leprosy didn't just fade, the skin was reborn. Verses 15 to 16. He returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him and said, "See now, I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore, please take a gift from your servant." But he said, "As Yahweh lives, before whom I stand." Here we go again. Another one of these. We see this over and over and over and over again. Before whom I stand. Elijah said it. Elisha said it before, and here we have it again. This indicates his awareness of God's presence and that he walked and lived before the presence of God. He was aware of God's presence everywhere. As the Lord lives, as it says in the King James, before whom I stand. I'm always aware of God's presence. My mind is always on him. As Yahweh lived, before whom I stand, I will receive none. He urged him to take it, but he refused. So here we have the confession. Naaman returns to Elisha. This time he stands before him as a servant, not just at the door. His confession is absolute. I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. He has become a monotheist. The refusal of payment. Naaman tries to give Elisha the gold and silver. Elisha refuses. Why? Because grace cannot be bought. If Elisha took the money, Naaman might think he paid for the healing. Again, then that would just feed his pride even more, right? In that sense. He might think Yahweh is just another God who can be bribed. Elisha wants Naaman to go back to Syria, knowing that the God of Israel gives freely to those who trust him. The next verse, verses 17, and I'll read until verse 19. Quote, Naaman said, "If not, then please let 2 mules burden of earth be given to your servant. For your servant will from now on offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice to other gods, but to Yahweh. In this thing may Yahweh pardon your servant when my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leans on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, may Yahweh pardon your servant in this thing." He said to him, "Go in peace." So he departed from him a little way. Interesting that even though Naaman confessed there's only one God, the God of Israel, he still said he has to go basically worship Rimmon. Worship, at least by action anyway, at least by going through the motions. Worship in the original Hebrew literally means to bow. So you can bow your physical body without really bowing your soul or your mind, if you will. So you can just go through the actions, as a lot of Christians do. They just go through the actions. They don't really have a pure and holy and powerful relationship with God. They go to church every Sunday or something like that. So the 2 mules burden of earth. What does this mean? This is a fascinating request. Naaman wants to take 2 mule loads of Israelite soil back to Damascus. Why? Because in the ancient mind, gods were territorial. He believes He needs holy ground to worship Yahweh properly. He plans to build an altar on this soil in Syria. It shows his sincerity, even if his theology is a bit primitive. House of Rimmon. Naaman has a practical problem. He is the top general. When the king of Syria goes to worship Rimmon, the Syrian storm god, Naaman has to hold his arm, leans on my hand, if you will. When the king bows, Naaman has to bow physically to support him. He asks for a special dispensation. Quote, please don't count this as idolatry. I am bowing physically because it's my job, but I'm not bowing in my heart. Elisha says, go in peace. He does not burden this new convert. This reminds me